Hello, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new, I make videos on how to make classic cocktails and some original recipes, as well as some tips and tricks on bartending. For this week's zero-proof cocktail, I will show you how to make a crystal clear, alcohol-free milk punch. There are two styles of milk punch. The New Orleans style, that's made with rum, brandy, and whole milk or cream, and the Clarified version, sometimes referred to as English milk punch, that dates back a few centuries. Ben Franklin even had his own recipe. I have been making milk punch for almost 6 years now. And when I make it, I always keep it sans alcohol. I like the ability to try out different spirits, and like the versatility of having it as a base that I can mix differently for other people depending on their tastes. However, if you're planning on adding any brown spirit, I recommend adding it before filtering. The method I used to make milk punch, I learned from Eamon Rocky while I was a bartender at Bettany in New York City. Milk punch is made by separating the curds from the whey by using an acid. The curds, or proteins, form a filter to draw out tannins and pigment from the flavoring agents. The whey adds a luscious, creamy mouthfeel to the drink. You need at least 3 ingredients to make a milk punch. The first ingredient is, of course, milk. I use whole milk here, but you can use half and half cream or goat's milk. I've never used any low-fat milk or non-dairy milk for this method, though I have heard that coconut milk works. The higher the fat content, the creamier your milk punch will be, but it's also harder to break the emulsion when the fat content is higher, so I recommend using whole milk. Second, you will need an acid. This is usually in the form of citrus, but I have used vinegar in the past. Basically, any acid that has a pH of 4.1 or lower will work. And lastly, you need some type of flavoring agent. Typically, I would use tea. For this milk punch, I'm going to keep it pretty basic and use lemon juice, lavender tea, Earl Grey tea, honey, and milk. In place of an alcoholic spirit, I will be making the cocktail with Seedlip Grove 42. Which is like a citrusy, gingery spirit. I'm going to start by brewing the tea. I'm adding 6 teaspoons of lavender tea and 2 teaspoons of Earl Grey. Since the Earl Grey tea and the lavender tea have the same brewing time, I'm going to add them both to my French press. Then I'm just going to add 3 cups of boiling water and let this steep for 5 minutes. It's okay if this oversteeps. Once it's filtered through the curds, it will lose its astringency. While the tea is brewing, I'm going to juice my lemons over a fine mesh sieve to catch any seeds. Lemon has a pH of 2, so you don't need to use that much to break the milk emulsion. I'm looking for a half cup of lemon juice. Now I'm going to add the milk to a saucepan. I'm using about 1.5 cups of milk for this recipe. I'm going to heat the milk over low heat. Once I see it starting to simmer a bit on the sides, I'm going to whisk vigorously. This is going to keep the milk from scalding. Once the milk starts to rise and get really foamy, I will kill the flame and add the citrus while continuing to whisk. This will ensure none of the curds will be too large. Small curds will give you a higher yield and will clarify faster because the punch will have better drainage. When the curds are too large, it makes it harder for the punch to filter through. Now we can add our brewed tea. You can already see the small milk curds that have formed in the pot. You do not need to stir to incorporate the tea. Before I strain the milk punch, I'm just going to add some honey syrup to the mixture. I usually like to add sweeteners afterwards, but since honey is pretty dark, I'm going to add 2 ounces of honey syrup now. To make honey syrup, just add a little hot water to honey. You only need a little bit of water to loosen the honey. To strain the milk punch, I'm using a nut milk bag, but I've done this through t-shirts or tablecloths and have had great success. You will also need something to catch the punch. I like to use a wide shallow bowl. You might want to have 2 on hand just so you can swap them out while cycling the punch through. I also like to have a measuring cup or something that is easy to pour the contents of the bowl into. It also helps to slowly stream in the punch. That way you aren't jostling the curds and forcing them through the bag, which would make your punch cloudy. You do not have to wait till all of the punch has gone through to cycle it through again. I just keep an eye on what's dripping out of the bag, and as soon as it looks clear, I swap the bowls and pass the punch through the bag again. Since I was using fairly light colored ingredients, I only needed to do 2 passes before it was crystal clear. This recipe will yield a quart of milk punch. Now the punch just needs to chill in the fridge. Since this milk punch is not stabilized with any alcohol, it won't last as long in the fridge, but it should be good for at least a week before any sediment forms at the bottom or begins to ferment. For the cocktail, I'm going to add 2.5 ounces of our milk punch to the mixing glass. I'm going to follow the milk punch with just a touch of simple syrup, just 1/4 ounce, as the honey syrup has already sweetened it a little. And lastly, I'm going to add 1.5 ounces of seedlip grove, which will boost the lemon flavor and add some nice ginger spice that plays nicely with the honey and lavender notes. All that's left is to add the ice and give it a quick stir. I'm going to serve this over a large ice cube in a rocks glass and garnish with a lavender sprig. While this drink looks simple, it's so complex and fragrant. The milk lends such a silky smooth texture, while the lemon and seedlip bring a nice citrusy element. It's a really stunning drink. You definitely won't miss the alcohol with this one. Remember, you can always swap the seedlip with whichever clear spirit you'd like. What's great about making this alcohol-free is that it's easy to freeze, so you can have milk punch whenever you want. Milk punch is great to have on hand for any parties or any time you'd like to have a batch cocktail at the ready. It's a great conversation starter and of course a delicious drink. Don't be intimidated by the process of this one. It's easier than it looks. It just takes time and a bit of setup, but it's so worth it. Please leave any questions you have below, and I look forward to sharing more next week. Cheers and have a great weekend.